Hey guys, and welcome back to the Cuts Pack. It's been a busy couple of days, unfortunately, so production of these episodes is a little bit slower than I'd like, but as you can see, I have a lot of preparation in here, and this is just for one of those diesel producing units that I was talking about. What I want to do is I want to take the start of this episode to quickly go over with you what I had to do with the microcontroller. So if I go to cell control, because what this thing does is it controls the distribution of the empty cell items, these, or full cell items too, around the different things. So you've got the hydrogen canner, the light fuel reactor, the heavy fuel reactor, and the sulfur canner. And the reason why it's set up as variables like this is because they're mentioned multiple times throughout the code, and the sides change depending on which way the diesel generating super machine is facing. Oh no, we don't want to do that. And in that way, this has been changed to reflect a machine that faces this way versus a machine that faces this way. And you'll see what I mean when we get over to the oil platform. So in here, it's basically going to check to see if the hydrogen canner has more than 6, or rather greater than or equal to 2 cans of hydrogen available, and then it's going to give 1 to the light fuel reactor and 1 to the heavy fuel reactor. It's also going to go down here and it's going to check the sulfur, because there is a canner which deals with sulfur, which is an excess liquid that we want to keep some of, but we just don't want to mess with it, so we're just going to chuck it all out basically, or up to a point, and that's what one of our thirsty tanks are for. But this thing basically, it moves cans of sulfur from the light fuel reactor, as you can see there, and the heavy fuel reactor, and moves them to the sulfur canner. Then we have the empty can move. And what this is it's redistributing empty cans throughout the entire system. So if the sulfur canner has greater than or equal to 4 cans, then give and if the hydrogen canner has 0, then give the hydrogen canner 2 of them. That's what this 2 here is. And 2 because it needs 2 for distributing hydrogen. And also give the light fuel reactor 1 and the heavy fuel reactor 1. So there's all 4 that it was looking for. And while true, do all that stuff. And then it sleeps for a while. Computer pull signal 5. That's a very short pull signal, or a very short sleep. This is the lowest level it can be, which is necessary for microcontrollers, because remember that microcontrollers work on a low level. And this is basically sleep for 5 seconds. That's all it's doing, but we might put that up depending. But for now, I actually have a microcontroller prepared with this code on it. So we're going to get moving and start building this thing, finally. It's been a hectic couple of days, especially since all this preparation for these machines and things. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of metal, it's a lot of preparation, so I've just had a lot of that stuff to deal with, and as well as it's boiling hot here in New Zealand at the moment in the middle of summer. And my office has no open windows, so I can't spend as much time just like single-mindedly getting things done. I have to get out of this room on occasion, otherwise I'll boil to death. It's crazy. There are actually, funnily enough, interesting story, there are windows that could open in this room, but for whatever reason the landlord has them sealed shut. So I'll have to have a conversation with that man and see if he's prepared to let me open them a little bit. So I'm going to take some technical blocks out of here, and the reason for that is we need a couple. I'm also going to get my chisel out because I don't want to use this form of technical block. What can we use? Some opaque technical blocks, I think. or scaffold. I think that's what we'll use. Okay. So we're going to work on this one. Why this one? Because it's the closest one to the mini generator. And that's the start. I have a little map here drawn on the back of something. I have lots of pads. It's actually drawn on the back of my microphone's manual. But it helps me remember what I have to do. So then we have two this way. And then we have wires like this. And a wire like that. I think I've missized this. Yes, I have. This needs to be one longer. So we'll break that off. Do that, and then do that. And yes, of course, things are falling down, and it's horrible, but we'll be shifting this all anyway. So that it can have things. Speaking of which, I should probably do that on the fly and not do it later, because I don't want the bits that I'm working with, the important bits, to fall down into the farms. That would be very annoying. Don't mind some of the chisel blocks falling down there, but the other stuff needs to stay here with me. Okay. Chisel, I need you. Caution tape, please. Yeah. I had a feeling I got the size wrong. Not sure how I did that. But it's 8 long, not 7 long. Is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, it's 8 long. So from here, this is where things start to get interesting. We want if I turn my diagram around, we want a thirsty tank here. And it wants a glyph of the void, and it wants an envy glyph on this side specifically. This envy glyph, depending on what side you put the envy glyph on, it doesn't matter about the void glyph, but the envy glyph is the side that it will pull from. It automatically pulls out of things that are next to it with an envy glyph. The void glyph allows it to fill up, and then anything past full, it gets dumped. It'll still pull it out, but it just gets dumped off into the null space. And then I want a fluid canner. This is our first of 6. You can face this direction because why not? So this will now be pulling out of this fluid canner, you see. And then we want our microcontroller. It doesn't really matter what way it faces, but we're going to face it the appropriate way, which is this way. And then we're going to put another fluid canner right here. Okay, 2 fluid canners. And then we want 2 chemical reactors, blam, and blam, and 2 distilleries on this side. Here's our distilleries. Distillery, there you are. Over here, and over here. And on top of them, we want the fluid extractors, blam, and blam. This will all make sense going forward. Right now, it probably doesn't make any sense whatsoever. That's quite okay. So, we need our electrolyzer to go here. You're right on the end. And we're going to basically, once I've shifted this over, we're going to have a pipe coming out of here and feeding directly into that electrolyzer for water. Okay, and then we want an item router here and another fluid canner on top. There are so many fluid canners in this build, it's ridiculous. And then we want a thirsty tank on top. And I forgot a wrench. I'm a dum-dum. This could be a problem. Oh, I actually have steel on me. It's not going to be a problem after all. Because I can make a wrench on the fly. No, I can't. have to make a hammer on the fly first. Oh well. What do we have? Do not have a stick available. I need a single stick. And I know I have wood in this chest over here, so I don't have to cut. That's the main thing. I even actually have sticks. How about that? Probably for making carpenter stuff. Hammer. This is a horrible waste of resources, but I'd rather not go all the way back to the base just for this. So, we now have a wrench. Because, of course, we had to place our thirsty tank, and we need to move that so that we can put the glyph of envy on the bottom. Bam! And glyph of void, doesn't really matter where that goes. And then we can put our basic fluid canner back. Bam! Right. So, everything here is powered. Should be. 1, 2. Yes. This is unpowered, but the way that gets powered is because we lead cables up and over here. Like this. Bam, bam. Bam, bam. Bam. Bam, bam, bam. Alright. Next. What is next? We're really close to having everything laid down. What am I doing? Come on, brain. I can't remember the top part. That's embarrassing. Oh, right. We need fluid canners here. And here. Because these need to send cans up into these, which then go into a mixer, which need to get up on top of that. And the mixer needs to go here. Okay, everything's working out fine. And the canner needs to go here. Right. Now, electrum pipes. This. And this. Brilliant. You know what I didn't do? Oh, this is bad. Can I do this in... I don't think I can do that in... I'm going to be wasteful of metal again for the sake of doing things quickly. I can turn these into metal plates. How do I make that a metal plate? Right, it's 2. I had metal plates made, I just didn't put them in my damn inventory. Like a dummy. So there's some metal plates. Okay, so these go into here. And by these I mean... let's walk you through the process. It'll make more sense this way. First of all, the electrolyzer gets water in here and cans in here. It turns those cans into hydrogen cans and then feeds the hydrogen. It feeds these hydrogen cells. How do we make a hydrogen cell? Right. And then if we just get the one for just water, there it is. It makes these oxygen cells and puts hydrogen out. Okay? So the oxygen cells, we do up and down. This item router will take the oxygen cells out of here, because what we do is we do item input and wrench. And that will put the item of the oxygen cell, once I have an oxygen cell, because I need to program this, up into here, which will then empty the oxygen cell into the thirsty tank and pass the empty cell back down. So basically this is just going up and down, with a handful of cells. And speaking of a handful of cells, let's put that handful in. 8 is overkill, but it's a nice amount to keep it supported, right? Then the hydrogen created from the basic electrolyzer, which goes in here, goes into this basic fluid canner. The basic fluid canner then puts that hydrogen into cells, which are in here. We'll put 10 in here. Those go into there, 10, okay? And the other thing we want to do is we want to put 64 in here and 64 in here. There's a reason we're maxing these two out. It's a very annoying problem, but it's the only way that I managed to figure this out. Anyway, these get turned into hydrogen cells. The hydrogen cells in pairs of 2, which you remember the microcontroller that I showed you at the beginning, the code for that. In pairs of 2, one goes in here and the other goes in here. But also, there needs to be empty cells in here. Why? Because the reaction of creating fuel, so if we take oil, actually it's best to do oil berries because there's multiple types of oil in the pack. Uses for the oil berry becomes extracted to this oil, and the uses for that in a distillery is sulfuric naphtha or sulfuric heavy fuel. So uses for sulfuric heavy fuel into a chemical reactor, hydrogen plus an empty cell, so that's what I've explained so far, produces 2 hydric sulfide cells and 4 heavy fuel. The hydric sulfide cells need to get passed into the canner behind our thirsty tank and then emptied out, so they become empty cells again, and then this thirsty tank sucks up the free floating sulfur until it gets full, okay, the sulfuric acid, until it gets full, and then it just, similarly to the oxygen one, it just stays full and empties out anything. The empty cells are then redistributed back to the basic chemical reactors and the basic fluid canner. This one, of course, being the hydrogen making one. 2 goes to this, 1 goes to this, 1 goes to this. Cool. So, next part. Into these basic fluid extractors needs to go the oil berries, right? There's one on each side, so they get fed at the same time. The oil berries go into the basic fluid extractor, which turns the berries into oil. The oil then goes down into a basic distillery, which I need to prepare 2 chips for. Whoops. The 2 chips are programmed to turn the oil into different products. And so if we do uses here, so our fluid extractor on top turns it into GRAEGified oil, and then our distillery with the coded chip turns it into what we need, which is sulfuric heavy fuel or sulfuric light fuel. This one in particular will be coded to do light fuel. This one in particular will be coded to do heavy fuel. Why that? It's just the way that I've programmed the microcontroller. Now, here's the annoying part. This fluid canner has 64 cells in it for a reason. It needs to be maxed out, and so does the other one. And the reason for that is so distribution doesn't get messed up. There's always going to be cans in either one, and the reason for that is in the mixer, you put in 6 light fuel cells and 2 heavy fuel cells. Hang on, let me just make sure that that is correct. Uses, I have to do it this way every time. Uses. Okay, 5 light fuel, 1 heavy fuel turns into 6 diesel cells. Those 6 diesel cells will go into this fluid canner to get emptied out and turned into liquid diesel, which goes into here. But then we have empty cells, and the empty cells need to be redistributed. Rather than using another microcontroller, I've decided to use an item router, but the item router is not guaranteed to be an even distribution. It's not going to go 1, 1, 1, 1. So that's why it's 64 on each side, because not either of these cannot take more than 64 guarantees that they will on each side have some amount of cans in them at any one time. If I did just 64 after a lot, it just really needs to be more than 64. I went overkill with 2 lots of 64. If it was just 64, what might happen after a very long time is one basic fluid canner might get all 64 of them. And that would be bad. Because then we would never have the product moving out of there and never produce more diesel. So that's why those are overfilled. So, and the reason why we needed the plates was so that we could do this and this and this. I don't know why I'm taking them out one at a time, but I am. And then we put the electric pipes into the side of these. Of course, electrum, remember, is item. And bring them down. So now, what will happen is the empty fuel cells will be dragged up into the item router, which will then distribute these to the 2 fluid cannons on the side. Got it? Cool. This is a very complex machine. It's very silly, but it works. Green and yellow. So we want green and yellow. That's how you program that, by the way. In this, we want to do item auto output. You can do both, but it means that if you did do both, it'll try going out the same hole. Because there is only one hole that you can program for output on one of these machines. So the item auto output goes there, okay? And it goes into the item router, which will automatically distribute them correctly. Nice. So from there, same deal here. We want empty cells to go to the bottom. Top, bottom. And once we get an oxygen cell, we'll be able to program that to have oxygen cells going up. I think I programmed you already. Yes, I did. Now we're just going around making sure we've programmed everything. How does liquid get from there to there? Well, I've messed up a little bit again. I need to make a pump, an LV pump, and apply it to this basic fluid canner. The LV pump will automatically take fluid from the basic electrolyzer then automatically without interrupting any of this junk. Because you can't tell it to auto pull without putting a pump or something onto it. You can only auto output. The other thing would be to auto output from this, the liquid, but then how do you get into the item router? So we've chosen to do items to auto output into the item router and then leave this to do the extracting of the hydrogen. So I need to go make a pump. I also need to get a bunch of other things like liquid pipes because I didn't bring any with me, like a dummy. That's cool. Everything is cool. Right, we need to distribute how this goes. So this face down, this goes right, this goes up. Makes sense because this produces oil and auto outputs the fluid to the bottom. This produces the sulfuric product and auto outputs it to the right. This produces the cells, so we need to do we need to do liquid. We need to do liquid, and that goes up into the fluid canner. And then this needs to do item output, and it needs to also go up. Because it goes up and into the mixer. Same deal here, up, up, down, left. And all of them need to be put onto liquid output. Liquid output. Did I turn you on? Yes, I did. Liquid output. Item output. Liquid, 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 item. Good. Item, liquid, liquid, liquid. Good. Okay. So we also want you to be here and you to be here. I don't need a steel plate on this side, but I will need a steel plate on that side. And why that is because we're going to have item pipes, obviously, connecting to the top of our fluid extractors. Right. You don't need it on this side because you can't connect to the front of a machine, a GRAEGtech machine. Well, I think you can, but it's a setting that you set in a screwdriver. And of course, this will be the output, the liquid output side. So we need to put a pipe on here and then a pump. Cool. All right. So this is our crazy contraption. It's pretty neat. It works, I promise. So now that I've set this thing up, I'm going to grab that pump that I forgot. I'm also going to grab some liquid pipes. I'm also going to move this across one and fix the size of that. So I'm going to tidy up here a bit. I'm also going to get power going from here to there. But I will be back once that is ready. See you in a sec. Okay, I'm back. I should have everything. I've got an electric pump and some 2x copper cable. It has to be 2x copper cable because remember, 4 packets of 32 is 1 packet of medium voltage. So we need 2x copper cable because our generator is producing 2 packets worth of medium voltage. So that's the thing. Also, we're going to be running this 2x elsewhere under the oil platform in order to just more efficiently shuffle power around, which is why I have so much of it. It's also not going to be a direct link from the generator to the the thingamajigger, the diesel super machine, because we want to basically make sure our power grid is set up correctly rather than hodgepodge. So the generator will be leading its copper cable elsewhere. Anywho, let's get back up here and back to business. We should be able to do things. I also made a whole bunch of small bronze fluid pipe. We should be able to replace a whole bunch of the water pipe. Jumpy jump, jump, jump. I shouldn't be jumping because I only have 1 piece of food left. This is still running. Reason being, obviously, it's only just started. It's been unchunk loaded while I was working back at the base because it didn't actually fill up that much from last time I gave it fuel in the previous episode. So, first things first, before we power anything, this needs water. And it desperately needs water. So that's how that's going to work, which means we need one here as well. Also, something I didn't show in the previous cut was that I had to put this cable up the side because this was unpowered. So that's happened. And we do that, and we won't do that just for now, and we also won't link up that. Reason being is I haven't brought any shutters with me to make that flow nicely. So our pipe is directly under our feet here. And we are going to turn on our harness so that we can lead it correctly. Unlike last time where I was being super lazy about it. So that is going to connect, but I do actually want to replace a lot of this. We have 46 pieces of small bronze pipe, so we may as well. Oh boy. This is the one thing. Pipes take ages to cut with necks anyway, and then on top of that you've got the flight penalty with moving things. I'm sure you're all aware of the flying penalty for destroying blocks. I think it's because flight is based off swimming. I'm not entirely sure. Even though Aqua Affinity doesn't assist it at all. It's still, the penalty still applies. So we will have to get up at this point. So that went over here, I think, is where we ended up putting... Nope. Not quite. Ugh. Silly cat's bug. Anyway. Let's just cut that out. we should see this thing running by the actual time that, without me having to do another cut, which is nice. And I will leave the wood here. I will remove that one though. Remember, this is all going to be replaced by plastic at some point anyway, which means we're going to be digging up these bronze pipes all over again, but that's fine. There is good reason for using bronze at the moment. It's just better flow. Whoops. So you should technically have water. You do. Awesome. That is exactly what we wanted to see. Alright, so from here though, we need to figure out how we're going to lay this cable. I think the cable's going to come down here, and similarly it's going to go probably beside this bronze pipe, or underneath it, more likely. Yeah. So if we do this, and then we will feed power in through here, and red is output, so we need to switch that. No, we don't. Did it automatically. That's nice. I think I switched to that one, and this is the default state, so that's cool. So this copper wire needs to run along here. I did dig that floor out on purpose. It's just a visual guide for me, so I know I'm lining things up correctly. So you come across to here, and almost immediately, unfortunately, it's not actually a good thing, the hydrogen should start producing. Or not quite. Interesting. Might have to figure out what's going on there. Don't want to waste any fuel, so we'll cover this back up as well. No! We have lost some of those blocks to the depths. That's okay. I'm thinking for the inside of buildings I might actually replace this shiny metal with something else. Not quite sure yet. So this all should technically be getting power. It's not though. Or it might be actually, it's just I haven't put any cells in here, and that was from the accident earlier. Yeah, there it goes. So it does actually have power. Off it goes. Very, very slow. Very slow, and it's probably going to eat all of this. It's actually this electrolyzer that uses the most power overall, followed by the heavy fuel chemical reactor. Pretty nasty, both of them. I think this is 24,000 per recipe. Where are you? Where are you? There's so many. There. 45,000. So, you know, twice what I thought it was. So that is that. But that will produce some hydrogen, and that will go into the basic fluid canner, hopefully. We'll also produce oxygen, which we need to program this part correctly. Go, go. And you will succeed. Huh? So slow. Oxygen, awesome. So this goes into the top, and we will manually put that in there, and that goes in there, and then our thirsty tank drinks it, and it is. Cool. So now we actually have oxygen on tap, which is nice. And we may in fact store oxygen later, because each of these super machines of course will have a thirsty tank, and we can lead pipes out of that thirsty tank to take the oxygen somewhere else. But for now we need to void it so it doesn't gum up the system. So unfortunately, Mr. Electrolyzer, we're going to have to waste that water we've already put in you, which is horrible. I know, it's awful. Oh, it's Alt-Tab time again. Ooh. Ooh. Okay, Alt-Tab time is over. Still don't know why it's doing that. So, why we need to do that was so that we could get our electric pump, apply it to the side of this machine, and put you on import. Beautiful. And now we can put you back down. Put you back on auto item output and print you back up. Okie doke. So, next time this thing produces any hydrogen. Yeah? Yeah. Next time this produces any hydrogen, this should automatically pull that hydrogen into its own system. And I won't make you sit through the hydrogen thing all over again, so I'm just going to skip until that is complete. Okay, it's almost done. Our batteries are also almost dry. There it goes, oxygen. So that should auto output to the top, which it hasn't yet. But the hydrogen was sucked out, as you could see, which is brilliant. So we've got 2 hydrogen in there. Now, I need you to go up. Why have you not gone up? Auto item. Oh, I know exactly why that's doing that. We need to do this. Input output side allowed on both of them. There it goes. And back in that empty cell goes. Now this is going to constantly make that annoying grinding sound. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to be extremely wasteful because I don't have any wire cutters on me. And do that. So that this thing can actually get some power. Because this whole system will churn if it doesn't have enough power, which means by churning I mean it will take whatever power it can from here, even if it's not enough, and try and run. It's very annoying. It's very wasteful. But now those two will happily talk to each other, which is great. We've got one problem, and that problem is I can't get to the microcontroller. To turn it on, because it needs to be turned on. And it probably shouldn't be turned on right now because it doesn't have enough power. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to try and fill this thing up with as much power as I possibly can. That may take a while because this thing is slow. But when it does have enough power, I will come back and we will try and run this thing properly. But as you can see, that's how the hydrogen part works. We've got 2 hydrogen cells in there ready. The reason why the hydrogen cells haven't been distributed yet is because my microcontroller is off, annoyingly. It will have stored power in it, so I'll tell you what, just to show you the next bit, and au revoir, not the fruit, the olive. Au revoir, wires, I'm sorry to do this to you. It's very mean, I know. Blam. So that's going to slowly churn through power. But we should find that these hydrogen cells will be moved at some point, unless I've got the directions incorrect on the microcontroller, which I may actually do because the hydrogen cells have not been moved yet. How frustrating. Go, go. Move my hydrogen cells. Move them to the chemical reactors. Maybe they're in the wrong slot. Pretty sure I put empty cells in the right. Oh dear. I think you're facing the wrong direction, aren't you? Or you think you're facing the wrong direction. That's frustrating. Because it needs to take hydrogen cells from the back and, you know, do all that. So I don't want to move any of this stuff. Alright. Why can't I? That's a too high spot. Let me in. Thank you. Give me that. Come on. Ugh. Frustrating. Very, very frustrating. And now, I need to put the mixer back. Hi. Which also means I need to reprogram it. Item output this way. And I can't remember, I think I put it around this way. Yeah. So, you need to item output to the top. I'm going to figure out how I got the numbers wrong on that microcontroller, but I will be back. And then it should be working properly. I can't imagine why I did that, but it happened. Anyway, see you in a sec. Alright, I've been back to the base. I've reflashed the EEPROM inside this microcontroller and rebuilt it and made sure the numbers were correct before I reflashed it, by the way. And they are correct, so this should technically work. If it doesn't, I'm very highly confused and upset. Oh, they're not being moved. They are not being moved. Oh, why are you not being moved? What I think might be happening, and this is going to be extremely annoying if this is the case, is that Greg has changed certain numbers, or he randomizes the slot numbers on some of his machines, because this is slot number 6 and this is slot number 5 according to what I did in Creative, because this works in Creative, by the way. This is slot number 6. And what the machine should be doing is when it checks for hydrogen, it should be looking at this machine, which is direction number 2 for negative Z, and it should be then, direction number 2, which is hydrogen canner, should be looking at this thing and going for the output slot of the basic fluid canner, which is slot number 6, taking these 2 hydrogen cells and putting them into these machines. Now the other thing that I can do is make sure that the logic is correct. And the way that we do that is we make sure that we have enough power, which we don't. It's going to take a while to generate that power, unfortunately. Ugh. Is to get some more hydrogen cells, basically, and see if it's something to do with my logic, because I did do greater than or equal to 2, and this is 2, which is equal to 2, and not greater than, but I'm wondering whether it's just doing greater than, which would be highly, highly annoying. So, what do we do? What do we do? Well, there is enough that I could try and figure out another part here to show you how it works, and then we're gonna go get a chest. Hopefully I've got a chest in here. I do, because I need this thing to give me some items, because you can't take them out by hand apparently. So let's just do that. Will that start getting items? Apparently not. How do you get items out of this? Blue? It's an item silo. How do you get items out of it? Construction, was it? And tanks and silos. Silos offer space for excellent blah blah blah. Items equal. Blah blah blah. top and extracted from the bottom. So we need something to extract it. Like a hopper. I guess like a hopper. I need to figure that out. This is all going wrong. No, there is one way I can do this. Just jump down in here and hand pick some of these oil berries for myself. Come back up. Now we're going to go to, half of them can go in here. If you're wondering why this is running, it's because remember that these machines are buffered. So this is the power that they managed to get before I cut the power. So that oil is going directly into here, but that won't process because I don't have the chips in there yet. But that would normally process into there and then go into here, which would then go into these empty cells. But this isn't working. Sad face. Why isn't it working? Why are you not working? What is wrong with you? What is your problem? Tell me, microcontroller. The bigger problem with the microcontroller is that because it's not actually telling me what's wrong, I might actually have to get a computer in there with a screen and a keyboard to check out what's actually going on with the program. So unfortunately, at this stage, I think you guys get the idea of how this machine works, but until I get that microcontroller working, this whole thing's not going to work horribly. So we have unfortunately gone 30 minutes anyway, so thank you all for watching. I'm going to try and sort this disaster out off screen between this episode and next, and hopefully in next episode I've got something to show you rather than an unworking super machine thing disaster. Anyway, thank you all for watching. See you later. Bye bye.